Omega. Spellwork Mastery.
Could you please talk a bit exactly how to set up a shrine for ancestors? I figure a white candle and clear glass of pure water daily. Any additional suggestions?
That is a beautiful way to start. Traditionally, you'll have 3 small dishes of water. You can use sake cups, which is traditional because, well, the way I practice, I learned in Japan. And every culture has different ways of honoring their ancestors. And this is why starting with a glass of water and a candle is very appropriate. You're providing light and heat and also water. And something you might want to add would be food. In Japan, they offer rice, and it's uncooked rice so that it doesn't mold or rot or spoil while it's sitting on the counter. Because we grow sorghum, I offer sorghum grains on our altar.
Right.
And also in Japan and in most of Asia, it's traditional to offer 3 dishes. 3 dishes of water, 3 dishes of grain, 3 sticks of incense on the full moon, and 15 on new moon.
So full moon and then new moon.
Yes. That's when you must light incense.
So this was in Okinawa that you learned to do the ancestors' altar, right?
Yes.
So is there a difference between ancestor worship or ancestor altars in different parts of Asia, do you think?
Yes, I have noticed a big difference.
Wow.
In Japan, they have very Japanese cabinets, and everything is very elegant and spare. When you get into Thailand and you look at their ancestors' cabinets, things get wildly decorated, and there's lots of color and sharp edges. Many things remain the same, though. There's always the offering of water, of food, of incense, of money.
Of money, huh?
The presence of a crystal of some sort, whether it's a crystal orb or just quartz crystals, and usually a photograph of the deceased.
Interesting. And then if the person liked to smoke, perhaps a cigarette.
Yes. Now this is where we start getting into the personalization of things.
Right.
It is very traditional, and everyone does it, even on the most formal of Japanese altars. Grandma used to sneak a smoke every now and then, so we're going to sneak a cigarette onto the altar every now and then. In my family, we had the tradition of the hallway or the stairwell as being the place where the ancestors were venerated. And all of the pictures of all the relations and all the family always went in either the hallway or as you climbed up the stairs. And what my family would do is when you're walking up the stairs, if you happen to have something in your hand that you're drinking, well, you stop and you address one of the ancestors on the wall and you have a drink and you admire the photographs. And this is something that we would do every holiday when you go and visit the grandparents. Inevitably, as you're walking to the bathroom, right, you pass your cousin that you haven't seen in a coon's age. And so you stop and you start chatting about old times and you look at the photographs together and you reminisce and you eat whatever you're having from the potluck and have another soda. And this is how it was done in my family. It was less formalized, but it was no less important. The real importance of the ancestors' worship altar is to remind you of 3 things. First, death is a lie. Your ancestors are here with you just as surely as David is here with me now. They're just in a different energetic state and not as easily seen. The ancestors' worship altar is a place where you can go to have that constant contact. Because what you do is you open yourself up to the idea. And it's just like I was talking about at the beginning, where it is, if you don't have the word, if you don't have the idea, then consciousness cannot follow through with action. So because it is your intention to reach out and establish communication with your ancestors, it happens.
Aha.
When you make this connection, this is another connection between heaven and earth.
Wonderful.
And each time you reinforce that connection, reinforce the connection, reinforce the connection, each time you do that, you are reinforcing your ability to manipulate the energies in this realm.
Wow.
With the assistance of the ancestors. The other thing it does is by being in touch with your ancestors, they can help you build your soul. You know, we talk a lot about how you get energy.
Right.
Well, one of the ways you get energy is from the influx of your ancestors. Nathaniel was mentioning this when he spoke about his grandfather who was in a similar industry. But because the grandfather was associated in that same industry, by petitioning the grandfather can lend energy from the other side into this realm. You give energy to the ancestors can give energy back to you.
Right,
and
absolutely.
It's this exchange between ancestral energy and you that's going to make your magic incredible. It's going to build your soul as well, because you're building friendships with the people on the other side so that when you pass, you just seamlessly
That
fit right
is
in.
very important also in many different ways. For example, when you're able to communicate with your departed ancestors on the other side, it makes grief a lot easier to handle. For
Yes.
example, I recently lost my mom, and gosh, my family was kind of surprised that we weren't really grieving, but rather consoling everyone else in the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm still in contact with her, just like I'm in contact with my departed son.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, for me, the simplest form of magic anymore is to simply ask Adam.
Right.
And he takes care of it for me. He was a magician too, so.
Mm-hmm.
But this sort of dynamic, real, living relationship with your ancestors, talking to them, it's an internal dialogue, but it's as easy as talking on the phone.
Yes.
Can be. So, let's see. Thank you so much for that about the ancestors altar. It's really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you'd like to say about that?
Well, in a way there is, because I really think that for people who have never practiced ancestor veneration before, or for those who may be adopted and feel like they don't have ancestors that they can contact, I wish I had that little button. I'd push it right now.
Right.
I am adopted on one side of my family. And on the other side, I'm not. So I get to walk on both sides. And in fact, I have 3 sets of ancestors that I can tap into. I have my birth mother, I have my birth father, and I have my adopted father. And I can tap into my adopted father's lineage of ancestors just as easily as I can tap into the genetic line.
Wow.
Even though I've never met any, but I've met 3 people from my male genetic line.
Wow.
Only 3. And yet I have access to all of those ancestors, even though I've never met them. And even though the other paternal line that I have is not genetic, I have access to all of those ancestors as well. So being adopted, in a way, gives you access to even more ancestors because you have more family lines to tap into.
Interesting.
So don't be shy about it. Even if you're adopted, even if you don't know anything about your birth parents, still, when you set up this ancestors worship altar, you are setting it up because you are the pinnacle of the evolutionary tree that your genetics represents. And it doesn't matter if you've ever met them before. You can go right on with the ancestors worship. Include all the families in it. You may, if you come from a very complicated family, I'm thinking back to one of my friends from California who actually counts 3 mothers and 4 fathers.
Wow.
Yes, because she was raised in a commune.
Mm.
So having been raised in a commune, when she taps into her ancestral line, she has 7 different lines to jet out into. And she sets out 7 little dishes of water. Now, she doesn't do the same with food. Her ancestors' worship altar looks significantly different from mine. But she still has access to all of the energy of all of these ancestors. And she's a very, very good witch.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I have a number of animal skulls I found walking through the woods. Any recommendations for magical uses of them? You should
yes.
You should never have asked that.
Oh, I adore bones. My specialty in archaeology was bones. I'm a zooarchaeologist.
Oh, she's been waiting for months for somebody to ask about bones.
This is so delicious.
So with that said, Leslie, tell us about the time, as long as we're talking about bones.
Oh, no.
About the buffalo head.
Oh, the buffalo head story.
Tell us the buffalo head story, Leslie.
The buffalo head story. Okay. This is a story from when I was in graduate school at Wichita State University. So, when I was at Wichita State University, I was invited
as a bone specialist.
As a bone specialist.
In the archaeology department, right.
Okay. So, my thesis advisor was married to the assistant director of the Native American Heritage Museum in Wichita, Kansas.
Right.
So they got a donation of a buffalo head. Yay! And they wanted to put it in the museum, but it was raw and it just came off of a live animal and it was bloody and nobody knew what to do with it. So they called me because I was the bone specialist. And I said, why, of course, I will take that buffalo head off your hands. No problem. But why don't we butcher it first to make it lighter? Because the thing was, I'm not even kidding, it was as big as him. I couldn't move it by myself. So we take the buffalo head out into the yard of the Native American Heritage Museum. And so I'm there with these 4 fellas with long black hair. And I said, all right, well, let's get to butchering. And, I reach down and I grab it and I start tearing into it. And, just like, and I look up. I'm the only one doing any work. I was like, wait a minute. And I looked and I said, well, don't you fellas want to help me? And one of the fellas said, well, I've never butchered anything before. I wouldn't know the first thing about taking the skin off of that. I was like, fair. That's fair. And then the other 2 were like, no, looks like you've got it. We're good. We're going to go back inside. I'm like, okay, this is groovy. So I'm, right, having a great time. And I got it all skinned out, and I put the skin and the tongue and the eyeballs in one. Well, I didn't take out the eyeballs, but the tongue and, all the meat from inside of the neck. I put all that in one bag that weighed about 100 pounds. And then, then you can just carry the skull as it is. Well, now it doesn't look like a buffalo anymore because now it's been skinned out.
Now it looks like a monster.
Now it looks like a total monster because it's all right, with big old buffalo eyeballs and everything. I'm like, okay, well, we'll just put this in my Jeep and I'll take it back to the university. That's what I'll do. So we throw everything in my Jeep. I go back to the university. Then I stroll into my advisor's office and I say, hey, where can I put this thing? And he says, well, why don't you try the medical department? So, where they keep the cadavers. Oh, yeah.
Great idea.
Great idea. So I call them up. I'm like, hey, I've got this head that I'm working on. Can I bring it down and put it in one of your fume hoods? Yeah, just for, like a week or so until they're like, oh, yeah, sure, bring it down. So I'm holding the thing like...
It must have weighed 100 pounds, huh?
It weighed at least 100 pounds.
Oh, my God.
So I have the horns hooked on my elbows like this, and the thing up against my body, and I'm waddling it through the hallway like this. Headed down to the labs. I take it down to the labs and fling it up there, flip on the fume hood, turn off the light. I'll see you in a week. I take off, right? 3 days later.
Oh, God.
That head is starting to develop a smell. I'm like, oh, is it good? That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. I'm like, well, aren't you going to come get it? Well, no, it's just now starting to smell. I'm like, oh, you have to come get this thing. But I don't have any place else to put it. We don't care. Okay, fine. So I go down to get it, right? And I neglected to bring any garbage bags with me.
Oh.
So I take it off and it kind of falls, and then you hear this kind of wet
Oh, no.
noise. And all the coagulated blood that was trapped in the sinus
Oh, God.
cavity has decomposed and gotten loose, and now just went all,
no.
all over my shoes and my jeans and the floor.
Oh, God.
And to my horror, out also pour at least 1 million maggots.
Oh!
So it's
does it
maggots
have to
and
be
blood.
maggots. Oh!
We call them white wigglies.
Oh, God.
So the white
Wow.
wigglies came out.
Oh, no.
And I'm just like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. And I walk out.
And just left it all there.
Well, I had to. I have to get this thing in my Jeep before I can come back and clean it up. I mean, what am I going to do? Set it down on the floor and clean it up so it can drip more blood and white wigglies all over the kitty?
Oh, no.
I take it to my Jeep.
Ah, what
So-
horror. Sorry.
So I take it to the Jeep and I leave this trail of blood and maggots all through the medical department, all down the parking lot into my Jeep. Poof, into the Jeep. I'll go back. I'm cleaning up stuff. And then there's all these medical students behind me like, you can't ever come in here again.
Don't you
Are
ever.
all archaeologists like you?
Don't
This
you
is
ever.
horrible.
Ever set foot in here again, leaving messages like this.
So I'm like, what am I going to do with this thing? Who else has a fume hood? The art department.
Oh,
So
no.
I call up, hey, I've got this head I'm working on. Can I drop it in one of your fume hoods for? Sure, come on down. Great. I hide it in a garbage bag. So I've got this enormous garbage bag, and I'm waddling. I'm looking around. I don't see anybody. Great. I throw it up there, and I take off. It's like, I'm still looking for a permanent home for this head, right?
Oh, God. While you're rotting
the
it
next
down.
day, because it's already developed a smell, the next day I get a call. Hey, there's a smell coming out of the anthropology laboratory. Can you do something about that? It's bothering the fine art students. I'm like, yeah, that's typical. So I go down, I'm like, okay, I can handle this. I finally found a place to put it. So I go down. The last time I have to move the head, I hope. I go down. I get the head. Again, whatever. And then blood and maggots and white wigglies. Now,
Oh, no.
now some of them are hatching, right? So
Oh,
now they're
God.
buzzing around me and crawling on me. The
Oh,
flies.
no.
I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So I get the thing. Of course, my garbage bag has a hole in it. I'm dribbling blood and white wigglies all over the place.
Oh, no.
And so it's back out to the parking lot, back out to my Jeep, boof, back into the Jeep.
Now you're not allowed in the art department anymore.
But I have to clean up, right? I'm looking around for, it's not like the medical department. They've got all kinds of cleaning supplies at the medical department.
Right.
The art department, they've got paper towels. I'm like, oh, God. So I'm down there with the brown paper towels they have at schools.
Oh, right.
I'm trying to clean up all the white wigglies with this, and they're
Oh, no.
smooshing and dying
Oh.
with flies and smell. And I get it cleaned up, and I just throw it in the garbage can and I walk off, right? 4 hours later, I get another phone call.
Oh, no.
It's the campus police.
Oh,
Like,
no.
oh, God. And the question is, who cut off their finger? I didn't know it, but the sculpture department was in the same building, and they used a lot of saws and chisels and things. And they were terrified that one of the students had chopped off a limb, and so they're looking for the missing finger.
Oh, no.
I said, no. That was me. And they're like, oh, the archaeologist with a rotten head. And I was like, wait a minute. You've heard about me? Like, of course, we've been chasing you through 3 different departments. You can't have that thing on campus.
Oh, no.
You get that thing off campus now. Like, so in the Jeep,
Give it to the people that wanted it to begin with.
no, I can't. It's not ready. I have to give this to them as clean, pristine, ready to be hung on the wall bone,
Oh,
right?
God.
So I take it to a friend's house who has a pond, and I throw it in the pond. It sinks. Fantastic. I've got this bag of buffalo hide and flesh and stuff. I just, kind of set it there. And I took off. I get a call in about a week, and they say, Leslie, we've noticed we're having a couple of issues out here at the farm. We have a lot of vultures who are very interested in whatever it is you're doing
In
over
the
there.
pond.
And they're all just kind of like walking around the pond. There's like 25 of them now. It's very unnerving. Do you think you can come down and do something about the vultures?
What did you do?
I moved the hide. I put the hide someplace else. And I pull up the buffalo head and look at it. It's half rotted. Okay, and I say, hey, I'll be back for the buffalo head in a couple of months. I'm like, okay, did you take care of the vultures? Yeah, I took care of the vultures. Okay. All right, okay. Okay. And so
it was the hide that was attracting the vultures. Okay.
It was the hide. It was because on the inside of buffalo's cheeks, they have it looks like little tentacles or something. And I don't know, it must be to keep their teeth clean or something, but those had swollen up and gotten all puffy, and the vultures were just like, ooh, snacks.
Oh no.
But eventually I got the head prepared, and we put sage in the eye sockets, and I polished it and cleaned it with hydrogen peroxide and made it all pristine and museum-like, and it's still hanging there today as far as I know.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Goodness.
It was the centerpiece for the greeting area.
So you ultimately were able to deliver the skull?
Yes, on time, on schedule, because, rotting is a predictable process. It takes a certain amount of time for things to rot and clean. And
then after it's rotted, what do you do? Do you clean it up? How do you clean it up?
You don't clean it in bleach.
Okay.
You soak it in hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
And that's because bone is made like little bricks of calcium glued together with mortar of protein. And it's the protein that smells bad when bones decompose, that and the marrow inside. And so you allow it to rot best in a wet environment because fat floats. And so as the fat is decomposing, it leaks out of the pores in the bones and rises up to the top. And so you don't have any of the bone fat marrow inside the bone. Then, after you've soaked it in the water and gotten all the fat out of it, and you'll know, it's obvious, then you soak it in hydrogen peroxide, and that's what kills all the bacteria and gives that nice, bright white color to the bone.
Right.
Then there's a further processing. If you're going to be using the bones in an archaeological laboratory, you don't really want bright, white, pristine bone, because that's not how we find it in the field. So after it's been cleaned, then you pack it in soil, usually the native soil that you plan to be excavating. So in Kansas and Nebraska, we use that nice, dark, rich loam.
Right.
And in areas like West Virginia, we would use the red clay soil. And then it gives the proper look to the bone so that it matches the archaeological samples, and it brings out certain features of the bone and makes it easier to identify.
Well, thank you, Leslie. That's so interesting. And now, who was that again who asked that question? Remember, I told you, never ask her a question about bones again. Have you ever wanted to gain real magical abilities so you can become the master of your destiny?
Do you wish you could get the ancient secret key for free so you can build the life of your dreams?
If you've wanted more out of life, to become all that you can be, physically, romantically, financially, spiritually, then you need to take action and get this right now.
That's right, and for free, but it won't be available for much longer.
So go right now to thescienceofmiracles.com and get started. Achieve the prosperous life you want for yourself. Gain ultimate life mastery.
The Illuminati have cast a powerful spell on the peoples of the earth, and while many still sleepwalk like zombies in a trance, they have prepared everything nearly to enslave humanity under a new world empire.
Of our hearts, the power of our magic, and the strength of our numbers, we still can break the spell put on our people.
We're just a ragtag bunch of magicians armed only with the power of our prayer and the power of our faith and the power of our magic. But whether you be Christian, Jew, Wiccan, pagan, magician, shamanic practitioner, or any other stripe of spiritual warrior of humanity against this evil falls to us.
So we, who now, to stand with us against the rising darkness, because you and others like you're our only hope.
Are you familiar with the Rosicrucian? With what's his name? He's popular in the States. He's the president or the from the Golden Dawn. What's his name?
Oh,
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
Have David Griffin.
I saw an email yesterday that he sent out about, there's a magical war going on.
Demons of the infernal realm. All of them.
There is really a magical war going on.
There is a guy called David Griffin who is heading all these magicians.
David Griffin is S.L. McGregor Mather's present successor.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
I'm Golden Dawn Imperator David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
Now, David Griffin.
You know, there's a magical war going on.
So there is really a magical war going on.
Spellwork Mastery.
Alpha
Omega.